Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar introducing WRAP's new employee engagement programme, Your Workplace Without Waste. My name's Philippa Hoy, and I'm a food and drink sector specialist here at WRAP. For anyone not familiar with WRAP, we are the Waste and Resources Action Programme, and we're a charity dedicated to improving resource efficiency and promoting the circular economy. Before we get started, I just need to run through a few technical things. The webinar is being recorded and will be available on the WRAP website shortly for you to share with colleagues. We'll send a link to you after the session. Please can you check your computer and telephones are muted. To make the slides clearer, you can maximise them by clicking the arrow in the top right-hand corner. To get back to the screen to use the Q&A box, click on the green bar at the top middle of your screen. You should have been able to download a two-page overview of Your Workplace Without Waste called How It Works, so that you have a short summary to take away. If you have any questions this morning, please do send them through at any time via the Q&A box on the right of your screens, and I'll pick these up in the Q&A session at the end. Okay, so let's get started. The object of today's webinar is to introduce you to Your Workplace Without Waste and give you a bit of a flavour of how it all works. So I'll give you an overview of what it's all about and then go into a bit more detail and walk you through the toolkit and the training resources. We've had quite a bit of interest in Your Workplace Without Waste already, and I can explain how different companies are using the programme in different ways. I'll let you know when you can get your hands on everything, and then we have time to answer any questions you might have. So why have we done this? Last year, in talking to companies in the industry, it was often mentioned that they wanted to take more action on employee engagement and get the employees more signed up to waste reduction. So that's why we've gone ahead and put these materials together, because we just felt that there wasn't anything out there at the moment. So what is it? It's an employee engagement programme focused on waste reduction in the workplace. This is for food and drink factories, depots and stores. And the reason that the same materials work across all these quite different settings is because it's all based on behaviour change. We're trying to get employees to change how they are, how they act, not telling them what to do. And this is an ongoing programme. It's funded under the Courtaulds Commitment, and that's the Food and Drink Sector Voluntary Agreement to Reduce Food and Packaging Waste. We're in phase 3 at the moment, and this ends at the end of this year, but we're already preparing for Courtauld 2025, which will be launching next year. Your Workplace Without Waste, we've decided, will be one of the core elements of Courtauld 2025, and therefore I'm really pleased that we'll be able to continually improve the programme and add more material. For example, we're currently developing posters and a screensaver to add to the notes and the activities that we've already developed. So how does it all work? The basic premise is that this is training by cascade, peer-to-peer learning. So we've provided train the trainer guidance so that someone in a company can train up champions who will then run their 5 activities with staff. It's designed to be flexible. We know how busy everyone is and how difficult it can be to find time for training. So the 5 activities that I mentioned are mainly 20 to 30 minutes each. They can all be run together in about 3 hours, which would be fantastic, or they can be split over a few days or a few weeks, whatever's going to work best for you. The material, it can be pick and mix. We've produced an entire programme that works if you work through it in logical order, but you may already have some of those elements and you just want to take out parts and maybe put into your own sustainability engagement programme or induction training. Again, just tailored to fit what you need. So these 5 activities that I've mentioned, what are we trying to aim to get employees to achieve as a result of these? So they're designed so that employees can understand the impacts of reducing food and packaging waste. They can learn how to recognise waste, measure it, and very importantly, put an accurate cost on it. The activities encourage the staff to come up with solutions to the problems themselves and then take ownership of those actions to prevent the waste. So what's included in the programme? The first element is the toolkit, and this has 3 parts. So we have a guide to get you going called Kickstart a Campaign, and this is advice on how to run a waste reduction campaign and includes lots of advice about communications and all the sorts of things you can do around the core activities that we've got guidance on. As I said, we're soon to include posters there, and also we're going to provide what's called an empty belly poster so that you can put your own images and messages in there as well. The next element is the Train the Trainer guidance, and I've just taken a snippet of one of the pages of this guide, and just to show you the step-by-step nature of the guides with all the details you need. You've got the key points, the talking points around the activity that you're doing, and link to extra resources as well. And I've picked this page as an example to show how we're linking at various points throughout the programme to WRAP's consumer campaign aimed at reducing household waste, Love Food, Hate Waste, that hopefully many of you are aware of. So this helps make it more personal. We're talking about what you can do in the home to reduce waste, to reinforce the behaviour about what you can do in the workplace. So hopefully this reinforcement is really going to help both home and work. Now, the initial Train the Trainer training is designed to be covered in about 3.5 hours. Now, that's not doing all the activities that I'll come to in a minute, but just talking through how you might run them with staff. So the third part of the toolkit is a guide to maintaining momentum. I've heard quite a few experiences of employee engagement campaigns being really successful, but then fizzling out. And sometimes they were too successful. So many ideas were generated that the company couldn't deal with them all, so no feedback was provided. Then staff get disheartened to see, they put in these ideas and they've heard nothing. So the next time you want to engage them is much more difficult. So therefore, we give advice on how to avoid this, and we've provided material to keep things going. And as mentioned, this is the sort of thing that we can keep building on under Quartile 2025. Now, one fun element of this maintaining momentum aspect is a scheme we've come up with to manage suggestions, to make sure you're acting on the best ones and having a bit of a funnel. And this is our take on Dragon's Den that we call Itching to Pitch. So the idea is that staff members or a team enter ideas for waste reduction and get these whittled down to a short list, and then they have the opportunity to pitch their idea to the waste masters. And you can dramatise this as much as you want. And then the idea is that the winner is given the time and resources to implement that idea, and hopefully a lot of good kudos in the company and that sort of thing. So we've provided a detailed guide to help you run an Itching to Pitch competition with everything you need, from posters to advertise the competition and get people involved, right down to the entry forms and the judging forms. So we hope that running a competition like this will help focus the ideas for the ones that are going to have the biggest impact in terms of waste and cost reduction, and hopefully be a bit of fun as well while you're doing it. Okay, so then we come on to the resources that are designed for staff themselves, and these have 2 elements. The first is a guide for managers. Now, why do we need something specific for the managers? And this is really because no employee engagement program is going to work to its full potential unless managers help create the right kind of culture to encourage employees to take action, and then for that to become a way of life. So this is a concise self-study guide that gives managers all the information and tools to achieve this. It's designed to just work through at a manager's own pace, and it includes links to further, more detailed information for when it's needed. And that helps to access all the detailed guidance that WRAP has on helping you to reduce waste. The second element that I've been talking about are these 5 short interactive activities that we run with staff. But we very much hope that managers are going to be really involved with those as well. It's just the manager's guide is an extra resource for them on top of the fun activities. So these are the 5 activities, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes going through each one so that you really get a feel for it. The first is called What a Waste, and this is a quiz. We've provided 10 questions to try and get across the why it's important to reduce waste. It's also really good if the company can add some company-specific questions, and that obviously usually gets some good talking points going there. And then each of the questions that we've provided has some talking points around it to start to get the messages across, and it's all about the why are we doing this campaign, why it's important. Activity 2 is called Where's the Waste? And this exercise gets staff thinking about where and how food and packaging waste occurs, and introduces this concept of the true cost of waste. Now that means it's not just about calculating disposal costs, but it's also including the cost of all the inputs, the labour, the overheads that went into creating that waste. So part 1 is all about scenarios, and presenting a scenario and then getting the staff to come up with ideas. So we've provided some, and it's also really good if you can have company-specific ones as well, following our format. And that really gets staff thinking about the waste reduction opportunities. So I'm just going to give you an example of one of these scenarios. I'll just let you read through. So we give some basic background and then ask the questions. It's a very simplified scenario, just to warm up the creative juices. Okay, and then we come to just a few key points that we've come up with, and certainly the staff might come up with others. So we think that the generic scenarios are useful to get people thinking about processes away from the ones they're normally involved in. This helps open up the mind to thinking differently, so it's good to use them before providing a company-specific scenario, which then brings them down to focusing on the real world. So we've produced scenarios for one for retailers, as a banana example in there. We've got one on pie manufacturer, bagged salads, and sandwich production, as well as this drinks one. So part 2 of this exercise is, again, getting down to much more specific in your company, and it's about identifying hotspots in your own site or department, whatever area you choose for this particular team you're working with. And there you provide a schematic or a process flow of that area and get staff to think about where the waste might be occurring and prioritising where they think the highest levels of waste are. So then we come on to activity 3, and this is what we call a waste treasure hunt. And this is physically getting out and walking around an area, and the treasure you're seeking are waste opportunities. And it gets people thinking about root causes and solutions. Now, you can either do this, a team could look at their own area, hopefully with more alertness to waste, given the other activities we've just done, or they could look at a different team's area and have that fresh eyes approach. And lots of companies have done this and do find it eye-opening. And then you could have a prize for whoever finds the biggest waste opportunities. Chocolate doubloons, possibly, something like that. And this is where you can pirate things up as much as you want. You know your teams. Does it need to be quite businesslike and straightforward? Or do you think that having a laugh is really going to get them much more involved and remember all this stuff? We did some training recently where it was of the champions, and we had them wearing eye patches and bandanas, and they loved it, and that was great. So the example you can see on screen is from Muller-Wiseman. Now, what you can see is an actual schematic of the East Kilbride dairy, and the company, because they wanted to make it fun, got their designers to come up with this fantastic old school treasure map. And their staff really enjoyed doing this and the effort that the company had gone in. So, you know, get designers involved or raid your kids' dressing up boxes. It's up to you to decide what level of fun you want to put in with this, depending on your audience. And then we move on to activity number 4, getting the measure of our waste. So this follows the treasure hunt, and this exercise is all about getting staff to estimate quantities of waste and the likely true cost of waste. Now, this was recommended by Heinz, who we've been working these materials up with very closely, and they wanted staff to have these skills to help them spot waste. Now, you could also add a competition element, which isn't in the notes. This is just an example from Greencore, the convenience food company. Now, they're really big on employee engagement across all areas of resource efficiency. And we're producing a case study on some of these just to give you further ideas. I particularly liked the activity you can see on screen here. They held a competition to see who could scrape the most remaining cake mix out of a container. So it really got the message across about just how much was being lost. And apparently it was great fun, and the staff got really competitive. So they had great fun with it, but they really did see, wow, that's a lot left that we can use and not go to waste. So then we come to the end. The final activity is what can we do about waste? And this brings together all the learning of the other activities and focuses on prioritizing areas for action based on effort versus the impact. And these are used to develop an action plan targeting the highest waste areas. The session concludes with a written pledge to take one action at least within 1 month to prevent waste at work. And the idea is that in a month's time you go back and you open these envelopes and see if you have achieved that. So that's a very quick run through the activities. Hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour for what it's all about. So just wanted to talk for a few minutes about how some of the companies that we've been piloting these materials are either putting things into place or planning to. And they've all got slightly different approaches. So Premier have decided that for now we've worked with them with their champions, and they're not going to roll things out just yet because the champions are fairly new in post and they want them to start implementing some of this stuff before they go out and take it further. Now, AB World Foods had training earlier this week and we've had great feedback from them. Their champions feel they've got a really good understanding of the issues, much more so than before. So now they're going to go away and plan an engagement campaign around these activities. Heinz, we're training next week. As I say, we've been working the materials up with them, and they're planning to train their champions and then get that rolled out fairly quickly. Muller-Wiseman, we have one of their environmental managers is really keen on employee engagement at the moment, so this really hit the spot with her. And she's running the training for the champions from her 6 sites of responsibility, and they're going to do all the activities as well as learn how to cascade them, taking a whole day to do it, which is absolutely fantastic if you've got the time to do that. And then we've got another dairy, Arla. They're planning to incorporate Your Workplace Without Waste into their lean program, which is excellent. It's not a CSR initiative. It's going to be part of their core operational efficiency program. So hopefully that's given you some ideas about how you might want to implement Your Workplace Without Waste in your company. So how to access all the materials. We should be launching everything in this October, and everything will be available on the WRAP website for you to download. Now, there is some additional support that WRAP can provide. For any company signed up to CC3, WRAP might be able to provide initial training, and possibly also early next year, even though Courtauld officially ends in December. If we've planned it before December, we might still be able to swing that. So do get in touch as soon as possible if that's of interest. If you're not a CC3 signatory, but you'd be interested in WRAP coming and doing this initial training, please let us know. We can't promise that we'll do anything, but if there's a certain level of demand, that might be something that we could roll out, but it would have to be on a commercial basis. So do just let us know. Okay, so now we've got a few minutes for questions and answers, and we've got a few that have come in. And I just wanted to start with one that people have asked me a few times over the last few months, and that's what's the difference between IGD's Working on Waste campaign and Love Food Hate Waste and Your Workplace Without Waste. So this is a really clear delineation, is that so Love Food Hate Waste, as we know, is all about targeting people as consumers, and that's also what IGD's Working on Waste campaign is all about. It's about employee engagement, but about them reducing waste in their homes as consumers. And hopefully by now you've got the idea that Your Workplace Without Waste is all about reducing work in the workplace. But as I mentioned before, that feedback of home and work can only be good for reinforcing the right sort of behaviours. So, for example, Muller-Wiseman are planning to roll out Your Workplace Without Waste training, having just done the initial training of champions this October, but at the same time as their Working on Waste IGD stuff. So it brings it all together, which is excellent. So hopefully that's all clear. Okay, so we've had a question from David Bellamy at FDS. Thanks, David, for that. Is it intended to provide any recognition for companies that sign up to Your Workplace Without Waste? Yes, this is certainly something we're looking at. If there is interest in the industry, we can do that. What we have done at the moment is develop certificates for the champions, so that when they've completed the trainer training, they get these certificates, and that mentions the possibility that you could use these hours as part of your continuing professional development. So from the feedback so far, we found that the champions really are learning a lot, and they are keen to get this message out to the teams. But we will look at that, some sort of company accreditation type thing as well as part of our future work. Okay, and then we've got a question from Heather from Warburton's. Thank you, Heather. Will the materials be slightly applicable to offices, i.e. to roll out at head office of companies as well as factories? Absolutely, and then there's 2 levels to that. The first is the materials as they are, all about food and packaging waste. It's really important that we get the head office staff that are involved in decisions that could either create or reduce waste involved in this training. So, for example, your food technologists, your new product development team, the marketeers, because what they dictate a pack to look like, and they labeling and all of that sort of thing goes on there. Promotions will have an impact. So it's very important to have people involved, and running all of this sort of stuff would be brilliant for them. You might do one thing slightly differently, just thinking off the top of my head, instead of a physical walkabout and treasure hunt of a factory or a store or a depot, you might get them to think about the new product development process or packaging specifications and see where the decisions they make could give rise or reduce waste. So just maybe want to tweak that a little bit. Now, the other side of offices are maybe people that you really want to get them to reduce office waste, and definitely we should all be doing that as well. So all the concepts, the way we've structured this program, will work for offices. We at WRAP are thinking about whether we roll this out for the textile sector and the electrical sector, because the steps that you go through are all the same. What we've done with this program is we've added the technical content to do with food and packaging waste. So, for example, if you wanted to make it office-based, you would need a set of quiz questions that relate to office use. So, for example, how many sheets of paper do we print, or how much paper is wasted in the office? You know, you might have to do a bit more work on that. The scenarios you'd want to change, but pretty much everything else will work, and a lot of the materials will help you do that. So certainly there's a lot that is going to be applicable. Just needs a little bit more tweaking if you're not talking about the actual food and packaging waste. Okay, thanks very much for those questions. I think we need to wrap up now, but if anyone has any further questions, please do get in touch and we'll get back to you. So just want to wrap up now, and just to stress that employee engagement really is key to successful waste reduction in companies. When we see the employees engaged, the results are much greater than just some specific interventions going on that the staff aren't really involved in. And make it fun. The more fun you can make it, the more people are likely to remember. Now, I probably bet if you forget everything I've said this morning, you'll probably remember me talking about pirating things up and treasure maps and eye patches, and that will just prove to you that the fun stuff gets remembered. And then that we've provided all the tools and training that you need. So it's all here, it's all done. Tweak it as much as you like, but basically we've taken the hard work out for you. So please do get on and use this and get your employees engaged. That's the email address you can see on screen if you'd like any further information. And really hope you got something out of this morning and can go away and digest this and get an engagement campaign going in your company. Thanks very much. Goodbye.